this delstack tutorial. Today we'll explore how to normalize a vector in Python. We'll start by explaining the concept of vector normalization and its significance. Then we'll dive into hands-on examples demonstrating how to normalize vectors using NumPy's lineage, norm function, scikit-learn's normalize function, and even manual calculations with NumPy. Finally, we'll learn how to handle edge cases such as zero vectors, ensuring you can confidently normalize vectors in various scenarios. Let's get started. Before diving into the code, let's understand what vector normalization means. In essence, it's about transforming a vector so that its length or magnitude becomes 1 while preserving its direction. This is crucial in many applications where the magnitude of the vector isn't important, but its direction is. For instance, in machine learning, normalization can prevent features with larger values from dominating the learning process. Now let's see how to normalize a vector in Python using the NumPy library. NumPy provides powerful tools for numerical computations, including vector operations. First, we need to import NumPy, then let's define a vector. For this example, we'll use a random 1D vector. To normalize this vector, we'll use the numpy.lineage.norm function to calculate its magnitude. This function calculates the Euclidean norm of the vector, which is the square root of the sum of the squares of its components. Then we'll divide the original vector by its magnitude to obtain the normalized vector. And that's it. On displaying the results, we can see that the normalized vector has a length of 1 and points in the same direction as the original vector. We can also normalize a vector manually using NumPy's basic operations, avoiding the use of the numpy.lineage.norm function. Let's see how to do it. To normalize this vector manually, we'll first calculate the sum of the squares of its components using the numpy.sum function and the power operator. Then we'll take the square root of this sum using the numpy.sqrt function. This gives us the magnitude of the vector. Finally, we'll divide the original vector by its magnitude to obtain the normalized vector. On displaying the results, we can see that the vector has been normalized like the previous method. Another way to normalize vectors in Python is using the scikit-learn library. Scikit-learn provides a normalize function that can handle various normalization methods. Let's see how to use it with the vector from the previous example. To normalize this vector, we'll use the normalize function. By default, this function uses the L2 norm, which is equivalent to the Euclidean norm we used before. We need to reshape the vector to a 2D array before passing it to the normalize function. This is because the function expects an array of samples where each sample is a vector. We'll also specify the axis parameter to 0 to normalize along the columns. Finally, we'll convert the normalized vector back to a 1D array using the ravel method. We can print the results and see that the normalized vector now has a length of 1 and points in the same direction as the original vector. We also display the magnitude of the vector using the numpy.lineage.norm function from the previous method. It's important to consider potential edge cases when normalizing vectors. For example, if the original vector has a magnitude of 0, dividing by it would result in a division by 0 error. To handle this, you can add a check to ensure the vector's magnitude is not 0 before performing the normalization. Let's create an if-else condition that can check for such scenarios with one of our discussed methods. In this code, we created a 0 vector with a magnitude of 0. We create an if-else condition where we check whether the magnitude of the vector is 0 before normalizing it. Since the magnitude of the vector is 0, we only display the message and do not proceed to normalize the vector. In this tutorial, we explored the essentials of vector normalization in Python, covering 3 distinct methods. We utilized NumPy's lineage norm function for direct magnitude calculation and normalization, and performed manual normalization using NumPy's basic operations. We also employed scikit-learn's normalize function for streamlined processing and discussed how to avoid errors while working with zero vectors. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more such tutorials. Also, check out the website delphstack.com for articles on Python tutorials.